The alarm went off in the middle of the night at the Galactic Council headquarters. Something bad had happened in the outer regions of space. Chairman Zephyus woke up from his rest cycle and rushed to the main command room. When he arrived, dozens of council members were already there, watching the large screen with worried faces. "What happened?" Zephyus asked, his voice shaking slightly. Ambassador Velthorn from the Kresh species stepped forward. He looked sick. "Sir, we have a situation. A human transport ship was attacked 3 hours ago. The vessel was called Horizon's Promise." Zephyus felt his heart sink. "Casualties? All 43 crew members are dead," Velthorn said quietly. "It was a Vraxian raiding party. They destroyed the ship completely." The room went silent. Everyone knew this was serious. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only 30 years ago, and they had been good members. They followed the rules, paid their dues, and helped other species when needed. But everyone also knew something else about humans. They came from Earth, a planet so dangerous that most species called it a death world. Humans were tough, aggressive, and very protective of their own people. Zephyus called up the video footage. The screen showed the wreckage of the human ship floating in space. The hull was torn apart by weapon fire. Bodies drifted among the debris. It was a terrible sight. "Do we know why the Vraxians attacked?" Zephyus asked. "They thought the ship was carrying valuable medical supplies," Velthorn explained. "They wanted to steal the cargo. But the ship was actually carrying farming equipment to a new colony." "Did the humans send out a distress signal?" "Yes, sir. The distress beacon was active for 40 minutes before the attack. The Vraxians ignored it." Zephyus felt a cold fear spread through his body. This was not a simple mistake. This was murder, and the humans would want justice. Far away on the human embassy station, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the observation room watching the same council meeting through a live video feed. His face was hard as stone. Next to him, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes was reading reports from human space. "They are calling it an accident," Lisa said, her voice full of anger. "The Vraxians say they did not know it was a civilian ship." Jake turned to look at her. His eyes were cold. "They knew. The distress beacon was broadcasting for 40 minutes. They just did not care." "What do you think will happen now?" Lisa asked. "War," Jake said simply. "Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But if the Council does not give us justice, there will be war." On Earth, deep under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Frank Chen was already in an emergency meeting. The room was full of high-ranking military officers. Holographic displays showed angry crowds gathering on human worlds across the galaxy. "The civilian population wants revenge," said Colonel Susan Drake. "We have protests happening on 17 different planets. People are demanding action." Frank nodded slowly. He was a careful man, but even he felt anger burning in his chest. "What is the Council saying?" "They want us to be patient," Susan said with disgust in her voice. "They say they need to investigate. They estimate it will take 6 to 8 months. 8 months. Frank slammed his hand on the table. 43 people are dead and they want us to wait 8 months? That is their position, sir. Frank looked at the displays showing the angry protests. He saw signs demanding justice. He saw people crying for their lost loved ones. He made a decision. "Send a message to all our fleet commanders," Frank said. "Full combat readiness. I want every warship prepared to move within 6 hours." "Sir, are we going to war?" asked one of the younger officers. "Not yet," Frank said. "But the Council needs to understand that we are serious. Humans are not going to sit quietly while they play politics with our dead." On New Seattle Station, hundreds of people gathered at the Memorial Plaza. They came to honor the crew of the Horizon's Promise. Flowers and photos covered the ground. People cried and hugged each other. Greg Matthews stood in front of a picture of his daughter Amy. She had been only 26 years old. She was the chief engineer on the Horizon's Promise. She loved her job and talked about exploring space ever since she was a little girl. Now she was gone. A reporter named Kyle Sanders approached Greg carefully. "Sir, I am sorry for your loss. Can you tell us how you feel about the Council's response?" Greg looked at the reporter with red eyes.
"How do I feel?"
"My daughter is dead. She was murdered by pirates, and the Council wants us to wait months for justice. How do you think I feel?" "What do you want to happen?" "I want the people who killed my daughter to pay," Greg said, his voice getting stronger. "I want them arrested, tried, and punished. And if the Council will not do it, then our government should." Kyle turned to his camera. This is the feeling across all of human space tonight. People are angry, they are scared, and they are wondering what their government will do. Back at the council headquarters, Zephyus was meeting with his advisors in private. "This is a disaster," he said. "If we do not handle this correctly, the humans might leave the council." "Would that be so bad?" asked one advisor, a reptilian creature named Sith. "They have only been members for 30 years. "You fool," Zephyus snapped. "The humans control 1,200 warships. They have weapons technology that makes our best ships look like toys. And they have something else. They are not afraid to fight. Every other species in the council tries to avoid war. Humans seem almost eager for it." "Surely you exaggerate," Sith said. "Do I read their history? They fought 2 world wars that killed millions of their own people. They invented nuclear weapons and used them. They are the only species we know that has intentionally poisoned their own planet, and then found ways to survive anyway. They call their planet a death world, but the truth is simpler. They are death. And now we have given them a reason to be angry." The room went quiet. Everyone understood the danger now. Zephyus made his decision. Send a formal apology to the human ambassador. Promise a full investigation, and secretly contact the Vraxian government. Tell them they need to hand over the raiders who did this. If they refuse, the humans will come for them, and we will not stop them. "Sir, we cannot tell the Vraxians that," one advisor protested. "Why not?" "It is the truth," Zephyus said. "The age of treating humans like junior members is over. They are Deathworlders, and we just learned what happens when you kill their people." 3 days passed after the attack on the Horizon's Promise. The Galactic Council sent messages of sympathy to humanity. They promised investigations and justice. But they did nothing real. No arrests were made. No Vraxian ships were stopped or searched. It was all just words. Ambassador Patricia Lane had enough. She was a patient woman who had spent years building relationships with other species. She believed in diplomacy and peaceful solutions, but her patience was gone now. 43 humans were dead, and the council was doing nothing. She walked into the council chamber with her head held high. All 47 member species were present. They watched her carefully. Everyone knew the humans were angry, but no one expected what came next. "Honored members of the council," Patricia began, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity has waited 72 hours for a real response to the murder of our citizens. We have received only pretty words and empty promises." Chairman Zephyus raised one of his tentacles. "Ambassador Lane, please understand that these legal matters take time. We have protocols that must be followed." "Protocols?" Patricia said, her voice getting harder. "You speak of protocols while 43 of my people are dead. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity is done waiting. We are withdrawing from all council military operations immediately. We are suspending all trade agreements until the murderers are caught and punished." The chamber exploded with shocked voices. Species all around the room started talking at once. The human economy had become very important to galactic trade over the past 30 years. If humans stopped trading, hundreds of worlds would suffer. "You cannot do this," shouted a representative from the Zentari species. "This will hurt everyone." "Then give us justice," Patricia said coldly. "It is very simple. Arrest the Vraxians who killed our people. Put them on trial. Punish them. Do this and we will return to normal. Refuse and we will take care of ourselves." Aboard the human warship Valiant, Commander Nick Perry received new orders from Earth Command. He read them carefully and then called his senior officers to the bridge. "Effective immediately, all human civilian ships will have military escorts," Nick announced. "Any alien vessel that approaches a human ship without permission will be treated as hostile." His executive officer, Lieutenant Helen Brooks, looked worried. "Sir, that is going to cause problems. Trade ships pass near each other all the time." "Those are our orders," Nick said firmly. "The government has decided that our people's safety is more important than alien feelings. If they do not like it, they can complain to the council." The new policy went into effect within hours. Human warships took up positions around civilian vessels. They created safe zones that alien ships could not enter, and when alien captains tried to follow the old trade routes, they got harsh warnings. Captain Paul Grant commanded the destroyer Steadfast. He was escorting a colony ship near the Epsilon relay when a Zentari freighter came too close. "Zentari vessel, change your course immediately," Paul transmitted. "You are entering a restricted zone." The Zentari captain sounded confused. This is a normal trade route. I have done this flight 100 times. Not anymore, Paul said. Final warning. Change course or I will fire on you. You cannot be serious. Paul armed his weapons. The targeting computer locked onto the Zentari ship. I am very serious. Change course now. The Zentari ship turned away quickly. Its captain immediately sent an angry message to the council. It was the first of many complaints that day. On Earth, President Claire Foster prepared to speak to all of humanity. Every news channel carried her speech. People on hundreds of worlds stopped what they were doing to watch. My fellow humans, Claire began. For 30 years we have tried to be good members of the galactic community. We followed their rules. We respected their customs. We helped them when they needed us. In return, we asked only for the same respect that other species received. She paused, letting her words sink in. That respect was not given. When our people were murdered, the council did nothing. They offered words instead of action, sympathy instead of justice. Her voice grew stronger. I am here to tell you that this ends today. Humanity will no longer wait for the council to protect us. We will protect ourselves. We will escort our ships. We will defend our colonies. And we will use whatever force is necessary to keep our people safe. Across human space, people cheered. They felt proud. They felt strong. After days of feeling helpless, their government was finally doing something. But not everyone was happy. In the Kresh Dominion, Ambassador Velthorn watched the speech with growing worry. He immediately contacted his government. The humans are very serious about this, he reported. This is not just anger. This is policy. They are changing how they interact with the galaxy. What should we do? Asked his superior. We should support them, Velthorn said. The Vraxians murdered innocent people. The humans deserve justice. If the council cannot provide it, we should help them get it another way. But in the Vraxian Confederacy, the reaction was very different. War leader Craxton watched the human president's speech and laughed. The Deathworlders are having a tantrum, he said to his officers. Let them cry and shout. What can they really do to us? His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Grishik, was not so sure. Sir, the humans have a powerful military. Their technology is advanced. They have been in space for less than a century, Craxton said dismissively. We have been warriors for 10,000 years. If they want to fight, we will crush them. With respect, sir, have you studied human history? They are very good at war. Craxton waved his hand. Stories and legends. Every species thinks they are tough, but when real warriors come, they all run away. Grishik said nothing more, but he quietly started reviewing human military capabilities. What he found made him very nervous. The humans had weapons that could destroy entire planets. They had ships that could travel faster than most species thought possible. And they had something else: experience. Humans had fought wars constantly throughout their history. They understood violence in ways that peaceful species did not. That night, Grishik sent a private message to his family on the Vraxian homeworld. He told them to prepare emergency supplies and be ready to evacuate if necessary. He had a bad feeling about what was coming. Back on Earth, military bases were buzzing with activity. Recruitment offices were flooded with volunteers. Young people wanted to serve. They wanted to protect human space. They wanted to make sure nothing like the Horizon's Promise ever happened again. One recruit was a young woman named Beth Cooper. She was only 19 years old. She stood in line at the recruitment center in New York, waiting her turn. Why do you want to join? The recruiter asked her. My cousin was on the Horizon's Promise, Beth said quietly. Her name was Amy Matthews. She was the chief engineer. She was only 26. I want to make sure her death means something. The recruiter nodded. He had heard similar stories all day. We need people like you, he said. Welcome to the fleet. Across the galaxy, the pieces were moving into place. The humans were preparing for conflict. The council was scrambling to find a peaceful solution. And the Vraxians were deciding whether to back down or stand firm. Everyone knew that the next few weeks would determine the future of galactic politics. Would there be war? Would there be peace? Could justice be achieved without bloodshed? The answers would come soon enough. Part 3, the Vraxian raiding party arrived at the human mining colony on New Dakota with confidence. They had studied the colony for weeks. Intelligence reports said there were only 50 security guards and minimal defenses. It should have been an easy target. They would swoop in, take valuable minerals, and leave before anyone could respond. War Leader Craxton had personally approved this raid. He wanted to send a message to the humans. Their threats meant nothing. The Vraxians were not afraid of Deathworlders. Colony Administrator Daniel White was drinking coffee in his office when the alarm sounded. He nearly dropped his cup as the emergency light started flashing red. "What is happening?" he shouted into his communicator. Security Chief Laura Mitchell answered immediately. 3 Vraxian cruisers just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They are heading straight for us. They are not responding to our messages. Daniel felt his blood turn cold. After what happened to the Horizon's Promise, everyone knew what Vraxian raiders did to their victims. "How long until they reach us?" 12 minutes, Laura said. Then her voice changed, becoming almost cheerful. "But they will not make it that far." "What do you mean?" "Just watch, sir." Hidden in the asteroid belt surrounding New Dakota was a human stealth ship called Shadow's Edge. The Vraxians had no idea it was there. Captain Ryan Cooper sat in his command chair, watching the raiders approach his colony. "They really think we would leave a colony undefended after the Horizon's Promise?" Ryan said to his crew. "How stupid are these people?" "Should we warn them, sir?" asked his weapons officer. "No," Ryan said coldly. "They did not warn the Horizon's Promise. All weapons target their engines. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Command wants prisoners to question." The Shadow's Edge fired its railguns. The weapons launched solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The rounds traveled so fast that the Vraxians never saw them coming. Within 90 seconds, all 3 Vraxian cruisers were floating dead in space. Their engines were destroyed. Their weapons were offline. Their crews were trapped. "Launch boarding teams," Ryan ordered. "Take everyone alive. If anyone resists, stun them. We want them conscious for trial." The footage of Vraxian warriors being dragged from their ships in handcuffs spread across the galaxy within hours. The images were shocking. Proud Vraxian soldiers looked terrified as human marines marched them onto transport ships. Some of the raiders were crying. Others looked like they had seen ghosts. The message was very clear. Humanity was done being a victim. At the Galactic Council, an emergency session was called. The chamber was in chaos. Species that had ignored human complaints just days before were now shouting about human aggression. Ambassador Patricia Lane stood calmly at her podium. She had expected this reaction. "The raiders attacked a civilian mining colony," she stated. "We defended ourselves. Is self-defense against council law now?" "You ambushed them," shouted the Vraxian representative, a diplomat named Shen Kax. His face was dark with rage. "This is an act of war." Patricia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "War? You call this war? Your people murdered 43 civilians without warning. You call our defensive action war? Let me tell you what war looks like." Representative Shen Kax. She activated her display screen. It showed a map of human space and all the surrounding areas. Humanity has 1,200 warships currently deployed. We have nuclear weapons that can destroy planets. We have kinetic bombardment systems that can level cities from orbit. We have chemical and biological weapons that we have promised never to use, but we still have them. We have industrial capacity that produces more war materials in 1 month than most of your species produce in a year. The chamber went very quiet. Many representatives had never thought about human military power before. They were thinking about it now. "And we have something else," Patricia continued. "We have experience. We have fought wars constantly throughout our history. We know how to wage total war. We know how to destroy enemies completely. We have done it to ourselves and we can do it to others." She leaned forward, her voice dropping low and dangerous. "So here is the new reality. Any ship of any species that threatens a human vessel or colony will be destroyed. We will not ask for council permission. We will not wait for investigations. We will not show mercy. We will defend ourselves with overwhelming force, and we will make sure that anyone who attacks us regrets it." Chairman Zephyus tried to speak. "Ambassador Lane, you cannot simply ignore council authority." "We are not ignoring it," Patricia interrupted. "We are recognizing its limits. The council failed to protect us, so we will protect ourselves. If the council has a problem with that, you are welcome to try to stop us." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Everyone understood what she was really saying. If the council tried to stop human military operations, there would be a war that would tear the galaxy apart. On the human colony of Riverside, Farmer Joe Campbell watched the ambassador's speech with his family. His children sat around the television screen with wide eyes. His 12-year-old son Chris looked scared. "Dad, does this mean we are safe now?" Chris asked. Joe thought carefully about how to answer. "It means we are not waiting for someone else to protect us anymore, son. We are protecting ourselves. That makes us safer, yes. But what if other aliens get mad at us? Then they will learn to leave us alone," Joe said firmly. "Your mother and I came to this colony to build a better life. We are not going to let pirates or raiders take that away from us." Across human space, millions of families were having similar conversations. Fear was being replaced by determination. Helplessness was being replaced by strength. Humans were remembering who they were, survivors from a death world, a species that had fought its way to the top of its planet through countless wars and disasters. The galaxy was learning this too, but some were learning faster than others. In the Kresh Dominion, Ambassador Velthorn was in another meeting with his government leaders. "The humans have changed," he reported. "They are not the friendly, eager species that joined the Council 30 years ago. Something broke inside them when the Horizon's promise was destroyed." "Are they becoming aggressive?" asked one leader. "No," Velthorn said carefully. "They are becoming realistic. They finally understand that the galaxy is dangerous and the Council cannot protect everyone. So they are protecting themselves. Should we be afraid of them? We should respect them," Velthorn said. "And we should support their demand for justice. Because if we do not, they will take justice for themselves. And that will be much worse for everyone." The Kresh government agreed. They began working on a plan to bring the Vraxian raiders to trial. It would be controversial, but it might be the only way to prevent a war. Meanwhile, in the Vraxian Confederacy, war leader Craxton was finally beginning to understand his mistake. Reports were coming in from across Vraxian space. Human warships were moving into position near Vraxian trade routes. Human allies were cutting diplomatic ties, and most worrying of all, human intelligence agents were active inside Vraxian territory. "How did they get agents inside our borders?" Craxton demanded. "We do not know, sir," his intelligence chief admitted. "But they are there. We have intercepted communications. The humans know our ship movements, our military strength, and our defensive plans." Craxton felt real fear for the first time. "Can we fight them?" "Fight them. Sir, if we go to war with humanity, we will lose. They are too strong, too advanced, and too willing to fight. Our only hope is to negotiate, never," Craxton shouted. "We do not negotiate with lesser species." But even as he said it, Craxton knew he was wrong. The humans were not lesser. They might actually be superior, at least when it came to war. And that was a terrifying thought. The next few days would determine whether there would be peace or bloodshed. The humans had drawn their line. Now the galaxy had to decide whether to respect it or cross it. Part 4: The economic crisis hit the Galactic Council faster than anyone expected. Within 1 week of the human trade suspension, financial markets across the galaxy started crashing. Human cargo ships refused to dock at any station that could not guarantee their safety. Human manufacturers stopped shipping critical components to alien factories. Human banks froze billions of credits in transactions. On the massive trading station Nexus Prime, Station Administrator Quilvin watched his revenue reports with growing panic. The numbers were catastrophic. "This cannot be real," he muttered, checking the calculations again. "We have lost 37% of our commerce in just 7 days. His assistant, a young Kresh named Tilvin, nodded nervously. "And it is getting worse, sir. The shipping companies that depended on human-protected trade routes are canceling all operations. They say it is too dangerous now without human escorts. But the Council promised increased security patrols." Quilvin protested. "The traders do not trust Council security anymore," Tilvin explained. "They want human protection or they will not fly." Similar reports flooded in from across Council space. Industries were shutting down because they could not get human-made parts. Food shipments were delayed because human agricultural products were no longer available. Medical facilities were rationing supplies because human pharmaceutical companies had stopped deliveries. The humans had integrated themselves deeply into the galactic economy over 30 years. Their sudden withdrawal was like removing a vital organ from a living body. The whole system was failing. Chairman Zephyus called an emergency economic summit. The council chamber filled with panicked representatives from banking guilds, trade organizations, and manufacturing companies. Everyone was shouting at once, "The humans are holding the entire galaxy hostage," declared Trade Director Velhan. "This economic terrorism cannot be allowed. What do you suggest we do?" Zephyus asked tiredly. He had barely slept in days. Declare war on humanity? Our military analysts say that would be a disaster. Then force them to negotiate. With what leverage? Zephyus asked. They do not need us. We need them. The truth of that statement silenced the room. Humanity had brought so much to the Galactic Council. Advanced technology, strong military forces, and a massive economy. The Council had benefited greatly from human membership. Now they were learning how much they had come to depend on the Deathworlders. In a secure military planning room deep inside Council headquarters, General Krathix reviewed war simulations with his officers. The results were sobering. Every scenario ended badly. In a direct military confrontation, we could eventually defeat the human fleet, General Krathix explained to the assembled commanders. But the cost would be enormous. We estimate 40% casualties in our combined forces, and that assumes the humans fight conventionally. What do you mean? Asked Admiral Shelvix of the Zentari fleet. Krathix pulled up historical footage from Earth. Images appeared showing mushroom clouds rising over cities, entire populations burning in nuclear fire, chemical weapons turning battlefields into poisoned wastelands. The humans have done this to themselves, Krathix said quietly. In their own wars, they used every weapon they had. Nuclear bombs, chemical weapons, biological plagues. They destroyed their own cities and killed their own people by the millions, and they kept fighting anyway. The room fell silent. Most species in the Council had never fought a real war. They had skirmishes and border disputes, but nothing like the total wars humans had waged. We are dealing with a species that evolved in constant conflict, Krathix continued. They understand warfare at a level we cannot match. If we push them into a corner, they will not surrender. They will burn everything down, including themselves. Surely they would not go that far over one destroyed ship, said another admiral. Would they not? Krathix asked. Read their history. They have gone to war over less. And now we have not just destroyed one ship. We have insulted them by refusing to provide justice. We have told them their lives do not matter. That is a very dangerous message to send to Deathworlders. Meanwhile, human intelligence agencies were working around the clock. In a secure facility on Luna, analyst Brian Howard compiled reports on Council military movements. What he found was encouraging. They are pulling warships back from the frontier, he reported to Director Karen Phillips. Defensive positioning. They are scared. Karen nodded with satisfaction. Good. Fear will keep them from doing anything stupid. But we need to push harder. The President wants the Vraxian raiders tried and convicted. The Vraxians are refusing to hand them over, Brian noted. Then we apply more pressure, Karen said grimly. Activate Operation Blackout. Operation Blackout was a cyber warfare campaign. Human computer specialists had helped defend Council networks from hackers 3 years ago. They knew every weakness in the system. Now they used that knowledge. Within 24 hours, the Council's secure communication network crashed. Private messages between Council members were suddenly appearing on public news channels. Financial records were leaked to journalists. Military deployment plans were posted on social media. The message that appeared on every Council representative's personal computer was simple and unsigned. Justice delayed is justice denied. You have 30 days. Everyone knew who sent it on Earth. President Claire Foster met with her advisors in the Situation Room. The mood was tense but focused. The Council is fracturing, reported Secretary of State George Palmer. We have 17 species asking for private negotiations. They want to keep trading with us even if it means going around the Council. Claire considered this carefully. That could work in our favor. If we can isolate the Vraxians politically, they will have to give up the raiders. There is a problem, though, said Defense Secretary Linda Cruz. Our current military deployment is expensive. We can maintain this posture for maybe 6 months before we start seeing budget issues. Then we make these 6 months count, Claire said firmly. Keep the pressure on. No compromises until we get justice. Across human space, civilians and military personnel watched and waited. They had drawn a line. Now they would see if the galaxy respected it. In the Vraxian Confederacy, the government was finally cracking under pressure. War Leader Craxton sat in an emergency cabinet meeting. His advisors were all talking at once. We must hand over the raiders, said Foreign Minister Daxlon. The humans will not stop until we do. Never, Craxton shouted. We do not surrender our warriors to aliens. Then we will lose everything, Daxalon argued. The humans have cut off our trade. Our economy is collapsing. Half the council is refusing to support us, and our military says we cannot win a war. What choice do we have? Craxton wanted to argue, but he had no good answer. The humans had outmaneuvered him completely. They had made it impossible for him to win without surrendering. If we give them the raiders, we look weak, Craxton said. If we do not give them the raiders, we will be destroyed. Daxalon replied. Is pride worth that much? The meeting went on for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. But slowly, inevitably, reality set in. The Vraxians could not win this fight. The humans were too strong, too determined, and too willing to hurt themselves if it meant hurting their enemies. Finally, Craxton made his decision. Contact the Kresh Dominion, he said quietly. Tell them we are willing to discuss a trial. It was not a surrender, but it was close enough. The humans had won without firing a shot in a real battle. They had won through economic pressure, military threats, and sheer determination. The galaxy was learning a lesson. Do not mess with Deathworlders. They might seem friendly and cooperative most of the time, but when you hurt them, they will hurt you back 10 times harder. And they will never ever forget. Part 5, the announcement came from an unexpected source. The Kresh Dominion, one of the Galactic Council's founding members, declared it would hold a trial for the Vraxian raiders. Ambassador Velthorn made the statement himself. Standing before the full council assembly, the Kresh Dominion recognizes that the current situation is destroying our economy and threatening galactic peace. Velthorn stated calmly, we also recognize that the human demand for justice is legitimate and reasonable. Therefore, we will conduct a trial under Kresh law. The Vraxian Confederacy has treaty obligations to respect our legal verdicts. The Vraxian representative Shenkax jumped to his feet. This is outrageous. You have no authority to try our warriors. Actually, we do, Velthorn replied. According to the Treaty of Nexus, which your government signed 80 years ago, any Kresh court can try crimes that occur in neutral space. The attack on the Horizon's Promise happened in neutral territory. Our jurisdiction is clear. Shenkax looked like he wanted to argue more, but he could not. The treaty was real, and the Vraxians had agreed to it long ago. They were trapped by their own laws. Chairman Zephyus looked relieved. The council recognizes the Kresh offer. Will the human government accept these terms? Ambassador Patricia Lane stood at her podium. Humanity will send observers to ensure the trial is fair. If justice is served, we will consider the matter resolved. Within hours, 17 other species announced they would recognize the Kresh trial's authority. The Vraxians were politically isolated. War leader Craxton had no choice but to accept the situation. The raiders who had attacked the Horizon's Promise would face trial. The trial was held on the neutral planet of Haven's Gate. It was a beautiful world, with crystal-clear oceans and white sand beaches. The courthouse was a magnificent building made of local stone. But the beauty of the location could not hide the seriousness of what was happening inside. Captain Jake Morrison attended as the lead human observer. He sat in the front row of the courtroom gallery with families of the victims. Among them was Greg Matthews, whose daughter Amy had died on the Horizon's Promise. Greg's hands shook as he waited for the proceedings to begin. The trial was broadcast live across the entire galaxy. Billions of people watched from their homes and workplaces. Everyone wanted to see if justice would finally be done. The evidence was presented over 3 days. Communications logs showed that the Vraxian raiders had received the Horizon's Promise distress signal. They had seen it clearly and knew it came from a civilian transport ship. Sensor data proved they had scanned the vessel and identified it as unarmed. Testimony from captured raiders revealed that the attack had been ordered despite all this information. One raider, a young Vraxian named Kexthor, broke down crying on the witness stand. We were told it did not matter that they were civilians, he sobbed. War leader Craxton said humans were weak. He said their lives had no value. He said we could take what we wanted. The courtroom went silent. Here was the truth spoken plainly. The attack had not been an accident or a mistake. It had been murder, ordered by a military leader who thought humans were easy targets. The Kresh judges looked grim. They deliberated for only 6 hours before returning with their verdict. The lead judge, an elderly Kresh named Torval, read the decision in a clear voice. We find the defendants guilty of murder, piracy, and crimes against sentient beings, Torval announced. They will spend the remainder of their lives in detention without possibility of release. He paused, then continued. Furthermore, War Leader Craxton is found guilty of ordering these crimes. He is stripped of all rank and titles. He will also face life imprisonment. Greg Matthews felt tears streaming down his face. It was not enough to bring Amy back. Nothing could do that. But it was something. It was justice. It was acknowledgement that his daughter's life had mattered. Captain Jake Morrison stood and saluted the judges. It was a gesture of respect that surprised everyone. The creche had done what the council should have done weeks ago. Ambassador Patricia Lane returned to the Galactic Council one final time to give her response to the verdict. The chamber was packed. Everyone wanted to hear what she would say. Humanity thanks the Creche Dominion for its courage, Patricia began. You did what was right when others hesitated. You proved that justice can still exist in this galaxy. For that, you have our eternal gratitude. She paused, her expression becoming serious. But let me be very clear about what has changed. Humanity entered galactic society with hope and trust. We believed the Council would protect all its members equally. The Horizons Promise incident proved we were wrong. Chairman Zephyus looked uncomfortable but said nothing. From this day forward, humanity will maintain its own security forces, Patricia continued. We will not depend on Council protection. We will escort our civilian vessels with warships. We will defend our colonies with military bases, and we will respond to any threat immediately and with overwhelming force. She let the words sink in before continuing. This is not aggression. This is self-reliance. We hope to rebuild trust with the Council over time. But that trust must be earned through actions, not words. Show us that you value human lives and we will be your loyal allies. Threaten us and you will discover why we are called Deathworlders. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer the naive newcomer hoping to make friends. They were a military power that would protect itself at any cost. Over the following months, things slowly returned to normal, but it was a different normal. Human trade ships resumed commerce, but now they traveled in convoys protected by destroyers. Human colonies accepted alien visitors, but only after thorough security checks. Human diplomats attended council meetings, but they no longer asked for permission before acting. Humanity established mutual defense treaties with 19 species, including the Creche Dominion. Human military advisors trained allied forces. Human shipyards sold warships to friendly governments. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and humans were at the center of it. On New Dakota, the mining colony that had been targeted by Vraxian raiders, Administrator Daniel White unveiled a new monument in the central plaza. It was made of stone mined from the colony's own quarries. On its surface were engraved 43 names, the crew of the Horizons Promise. We built this colony believing in peace and cooperation, Daniel told the crowd gathered for the ceremony. That belief was tested. Many of us lost faith, but we are still here. We are still building. We are still reaching for the stars. He pointed to the monument. These names remind us that peace has a cost. They remind us that safety must be defended, not just wished for. And they remind us that humanity will never again be anyone's easy target. The crowd, which included both humans and aliens who had chosen to live in human space, stood in respectful silence. They understood the message. This colony would never be defenseless again. Across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as inexperienced were now reconsidering. The Deathworlders had proven themselves not just survivors, but a force that could reshape galactic politics. They had won a war without fighting a single major battle. They had forced the Council to change through economic pressure and military readiness. In the Vraxian Confederacy, the new war leader, Kranvix, issued secret orders to all military commanders. Human vessels were to be avoided at all costs. No engagements without explicit authorization from the highest levels of government. The lesson had been learned the hard way. On Earth, in the military command center under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Frank Chen looked at the deployment maps with satisfaction. Human warships were positioned across the galaxy, protecting trade routes and colonies. We changed the rules, he said to Colonel Susan Drake. They see us differently now. Will it last? Susan asked. Or will they forget and try to test us again? Frank considered the question carefully. Some will forget, some will test us, and when they do, we will remind them. The key is to never let our guard down. We must always be ready. He turned to face her fully. We did not ask to be Deathworlders. We did not ask to come from a planet so dangerous that most species consider it uninhabitable. But we are who we are, and now the galaxy knows it. They know that humans protect their own. They know that we will fight when threatened, and most importantly, they know that we never forget. The Horizon's promise was gone, but its legacy remained. Humanity had learned a hard lesson about the true nature of galactic politics. The Council's pretty words about peace and cooperation meant nothing without strength to back them up. Trust was earned, not given. Safety was achieved through vigilance, not hope. Part 6 months after the trial, life in the galaxy had settled into a new routine. Human warships patrolled trade routes with quiet efficiency. Alien merchants had learned to respect the security zones around human vessels. Pirates and raiders avoided human space entirely, knowing that any attack would bring swift and brutal retaliation. But some species were still adjusting to the new reality. On the trading station Meridian Hub, a group of Tellurian merchants were complaining loudly in a bar. They had been forced to change their shipping routes because they intersected with human security zones. The detour added 3 days to their journey times. The humans are becoming tyrants, one merchant named Velkos grumbled into his drink. They act like they own space itself. A human freighter captain named Carl Hughes sat at the next table, quietly eating his dinner. He had been listening to the complaints for 10 minutes. Finally, he set down his fork and turned to face the Tellurians. "You want to know why we patrol so heavily?" Carl asked calmly. "Let me tell you about the Horizon's promise." The Tellurians looked surprised that he was speaking to them. Velkos waved his hand dismissively. "Everyone knows about that ship. It was tragic, but nothing," Carl interrupted. "I knew 6 people on that ship. Good people. A woman named Amy Matthews who loved engineering. A man named Peter Cole who told the worst jokes you ever heard. A young pilot named Sophie Grant who was saving money to open a restaurant. They were civilians. They were murdered. And the Council did nothing for weeks." He stood up, his voice getting harder. "So yes, we patrol aggressively now. Yes, we enforce security zones. Yes, we make life inconvenient for traders, because the alternative is more dead humans, and we are done sacrificing our people for your convenience." The bar went quiet. Carl left money on his table and walked out. The Tellurians sat in uncomfortable silence, realizing they had been complaining to the wrong person. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Humans were no longer apologizing for their security measures. They were no longer trying to be everyone's friend. They were simply being clear: respect our boundaries or deal with the consequences. On Earth, a new generation was growing up with different attitudes. In classrooms across the planet, children learned about the Horizon's Promise incident as a turning point in human history. They studied the trial, the economic pressure campaign, and the military deployments that followed. One such classroom was in New Boston, where teacher Margaret Price taught galactic history to 14-year-olds. She stood before a wall display showing the memorial on New Dakota. Why was the Horizon's Promise incident so important? She asked her students. A girl named Emma raised her hand. "Because it taught us that we cannot trust the Council to protect us." "Partly," Margaret said, "but there is more to it." "Who else?" A boy named Tyler spoke up. "It showed the galaxy that humans are not weak, that we will defend ourselves." "Good," Margaret nodded. "But I want you to think deeper. What did we learn about ourselves?" The class was quiet for a moment. Then a quiet student named Kevin raised his hand. "We learned that being nice is not enough. You can be friendly and cooperative, but if you are not also strong, people will hurt you." Margaret smiled. "Exactly. For 30 years, we tried to be the galaxy's good neighbors. We thought that would be enough. But it was not. Strength matters. Power matters. And the willingness to use that power when necessary matters most of all." This was the lesson being taught to human children across hundreds of worlds. The galaxy had changed them, and now they were changing the galaxy. In the Kresh Dominion, Ambassador Velthorn was meeting with his government's leadership council. They were discussing a proposal that would have been unthinkable a year ago: a formal military alliance with humanity. "The humans are proposing joint fleet exercises," Velthorn explained. "They want to share military technology and training methods. In exchange, they offer protection from pirates and raiders." The council leader, an ancient Kresh named Morthex, considered this carefully. "What do the humans gain from this arrangement?" "Allies," Velthorn said simply. The humans understand that they cannot patrol the entire galaxy alone. They need friends they can trust. Species who will stand with them if another crisis occurs. And you believe we should accept? Yes, Velthorn said firmly. The humans kept their word after the trial. They resumed trade. They did not seek revenge beyond what justice required. They proved they can be trusted. More importantly, they proved they are the strongest military force in the galaxy. I would rather have them as allies than as enemies. Morthex nodded slowly. Very well. We accept the human proposal. Similar alliances were forming across the galaxy. Species that had supported humanity during the crisis now enjoyed preferential trade status and military protection. Species that had opposed humanity found themselves isolated and vulnerable. The Vraxian Confederacy was learning this lesson the hard way. Their economy had still not recovered from the human trade embargo. Their military was demoralized after backing down without a fight. And their government was unstable, with many citizens demanding new leadership. Former war leader Craxton sat in a prison cell, thinking about his mistakes. He had believed humans were weak because they seemed friendly. He had not understood that kindness and strength could exist in the same species. Now he would spend the rest of his life paying for that ignorance. But Craxton was not the only one learning. Across the galaxy, military academies had begun teaching courses on human warfare. Students studied Earth's history, the world wars, the Cold War, the countless smaller conflicts. They learned about human tactics, human weapons, and most importantly, human psychology. One such academy was on the planet Zentara. Admiral Shelvix, who had attended the Council military planning sessions during the crisis, now taught a class on asymmetric warfare. The humans taught us something valuable, he told his students. They showed us that war is not just about who has the most ships or the biggest weapons. War is about will. It is about determination. It is about being willing to suffer losses in order to achieve victory. He pulled up footage of Earth's moon landings from centuries ago. Look at this. Humans went to their moon using primitive rocket technology. 3 humans died when their spacecraft caught fire during a test. Did humanity give up? No, they fixed the problem and kept going. That is who they are. They accept losses and keep pushing forward. A student raised his hand. But surely that makes them irrational. Does it? Shelvix asked. Or does it make them terrifying? If you attack a rational species, they might negotiate or surrender if the cost becomes too high. But the humans will keep fighting even when it seems hopeless. They will hurt themselves to hurt you. How do you fight against that? The classroom was silent. The students were beginning to understand why humanity had won without firing a shot in a major battle. The threat of human retaliation was enough. No one wanted to fight a species that might destroy itself to destroy its enemies. Back on Earth, President Claire Foster was preparing to leave office. Her term was ending and elections were coming. But before she left, she gave one final speech about the Horizons Promise incident and its aftermath. When I became president, I believed our job was to make friends in the galaxy, she said to the cameras. I believed that cooperation and kindness would be enough. The Horizons Promise taught me I was wrong. She paused, collecting her thoughts. Being kind is still important. Being cooperative is still valuable. But they are not enough. We must also be strong. We must be ready to defend ourselves. And we must make it very clear to everyone that attacking humans will cost more than anyone is willing to pay. She looked directly into the camera. To my fellow humans, I say this: stay vigilant. The galaxy is safer for us now than it was a year ago. But that is only because we made it safer. We did that through strength and determination. Never forget that. Never let your guard down. And to the other species of the galaxy, I say this: humanity wants peace. We want trade and friendship and cooperation. But we will have those things on our terms, not yours. Respect us, and we will be the best allies you could ask for. Threaten us, and you will learn why we are called Deathworlders. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Some species found it reassuring. Others found it frightening. But everyone understood the message. The rules had changed, and humanity had written the new ones. On New Dakota, Greg Matthews visited his daughter's name on the memorial every week. Amy had been gone for a year now, but the pain was still fresh. He touched the engraved letters of her name and spoke quietly. The galaxy is different now, sweetheart, he said. Safer for humans. That does not bring you back, but at least your death meant something. You and the others changed everything. He stood there for a long time, remembering his daughter. Remembering her laugh, her dreams, her love of engineering. She would never see the changes she had helped create, but her legacy would live on in every human ship that traveled safely, in every colony that slept peacefully, in every child who grew up knowing that humanity would protect them. The Horizon's promise was gone, but humanity endured. They had learned the hardest lesson. In a dangerous galaxy, hope is not enough. Kindness is not enough. You must be strong, prepared, and willing to fight. Only then can